Think they're pushing for tariff equity, some kind of weird equity thing, but it's a manufactured crisis. So you can have this big divide. So then you can offer the solution, which will, of course, be, hey, man, we need to unite all these countries where we're having these tariff differences, maybe the UK, Canada, the US, Mexico, maybe Panama, maybe Greenland, create one big new sphere block that can compete with the EU.
What do you think? You guys want to go to the next block? Chop it up a little more?
Yeah, we can close out the tariff theme.
Yep, we got a few more on the tariffs, yeah.
And then we'll get to the really fun stuff.
Cool. Let's do it. All right, Cody, you good? All right, yeah, you're good. Let's roll it.
I love these tariffs, but no one seems to understand them. To understand what Trump is doing, you just have to do one thing. Read his book, The Art of the Deal. It's all right in there for you. Anyone can read it. Anyone can understand exactly what Donald Trump is doing. And so what is it that he's doing? What is this tariff plan really? Well, it's a bluff, but also it's not a bluff.
So the tariffs. President Trump blinked is exactly what I would be saying if I was misinformed or trying to mislead you. I think what people don't understand is that we are seeing for the first time with the presidency, a business negotiation take place in real time.
Yeah.
Any negotiation, any contract negotiation that you've been through, certainly if you're dealing with larger businesses, it involves multiple phases. It involves usually a broad strokes proposal, then redlining. Okay, can we put that on the shelf right now? Let's put that on pause while we hash out these details. That's what you're seeing as far as the pause on the Chinese tariffs. And by the way, it's not across the board, to be clear. Let's still bring this back kind of into focus. The main target of these tariffs is China. Okay, that is the end goal. They are still in the sights, figuratively, of the United States. And we have more than tariffs to prove that that is the case right now, to prove that this is why Donald Trump is doing this. You have the executive order on shipbuilding. We'll get to that. You have Pete Hegseth in Panama, his statements. And then, yes, by the way, there still are some tariffs. Some of the additional tariffs have been paused. And I think you'll understand why. It's time for the latest installment of The Tariffier.
Exactly like I've been saying, you can't just look at the Smoot-Hawley Act of 1930 and then use that as your entire argument. It's a completely different strategy, and it seems as though Donald Trump's full-spectrum tariff pressure campaign is doing exactly what it was set out to do. It's accomplishing exactly what he was looking for. Trump has ignited a global economic realignment. And now we got all these countries and territories all seemingly chomping at the bit and jumping over each other, scrambling to make a deal with America. In other words, it feels like the paper tigers are folding and folding fast. And the headline for this video, Europe is already folding.
Colby, thank you, bud. Yeah, okay, we get it. Lots of glazing in that block. What do you guys think of all that? The glazers in full effect.
You go ahead, Seven. I got something to say after.
Yeah, it's ridiculous because, I mean, anybody that understands the very basics of economics knows that this is not going to be something that ends up saving us money. I mean, historically, everything that the government does ends up not saving us money. You can even go back to the bank bailouts and the auto manufacturer bailouts. Like, those didn't roll down to employees or bank employees or people with bank accounts. That went straight to the top. And I just see this as sort of the same. And it's interesting too, because for both of Trump's terms, he picked a George Soros banker. You had Stephen Mnuchin from One West Bank, and now you have Scott Bessent, who collaborated with George Soros to help crash the British pound in 1992. And I think that's ultimately what we're going to see here. And I think they're trying to tank the American dollar so that we do ultimately end up solely relying on that crypto strategic reserve that they're setting up.
Yeah, I think they're pushing for tariff equity, some kind of weird equity thing, but it's a manufactured crisis. So you can have this big divide. So then you can offer the solution, which will, of course, be, hey, man, we need to unite all these countries where we're having these tariff differences, maybe the UK, Canada, the US, Mexico, maybe Panama, maybe Greenland, create one big new sphere block that can compete with the EU. And, some people have dreamed that. You can look it up. And that would be like a superstate that would be as centralized as you can possibly think and have just as many problems with that top layer of government as the EU countries are having with the EU government, people like Ursula. And ultimately the tariffs hurt the people inside the country, ostensibly punish the other countries. But you got to see the hypocrisy in like the U.S. has already banned China's Huawei and other companies from doing business in the States and selling their products for good reason, right? Because the ties to Chinese intelligence and all the hackings and stuff that go on there. And then a lot of countries don't want American beef because, like in Canada, we don't like American beef here because American beef traditionally has lots of hormones and vaccines injected into it, and we don't have that standard here. We decide not to, we lay off the cows. Same with Irish beef. Some of the best beef I've ever had in my entire life was in the country of Ireland, where they are very strict about what they import versus what they grow. So I get some of the point the liberal hive mind's making, but in reality, like, if even America first, it's like sometimes you don't always have the superior product, right? And so it's cool. Sell to your own market, sell locally, sell to your community, make enough to sell to them. This sounds like complaining because I want to go and dominate the globe with my product, which may or may not be of good quality, but because I'm the strongest and most monopolistic, I need to have the right to do that. And yeah, the States I've up till this point have always thought that they already set their own tariffs to kind of like make cheaper goods available. And that's why the trade-off is you lost a bunch of manufacturing jobs, but you have cheap TVs and computers and all these electronic goods because they're made with more servant slave labor. And, this is the outsourced cost of cheap goods that people need to understand, which again goes back to Seven's point about buying local and just investing in your local community or developing your skills and making stuff for yourself.
Yeah, I want to start making my own iPhone, man. I'm telling you what. But dude, that's such a good point. But those of you outside of America don't understand that this is America and you will buy our shit whether you like it or not. This is America. No, I'm just kidding. But it's like, okay, all those guys kept bringing up or mentioning or alluding to this whole art of the deal thing. It's like, well, you guys didn't know it's the art of the deal. He's negotiating. And it's like, so originally I thought that these tariffs were about, okay, so we're going to revamp the entire economic structure of how the United States works, the whole global market. Like, wasn't this a big ploy to like just change the world and change America, the whole way we do economics, or was it a bluff to begin with? So I was under the impression that was what it was all about, like instituting these strong tariffs, completely redoing how the whole economy even works, like bringing manufacturing back to the United States, blah, 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 whether it's giving us jobs or AI jobs or whatever. To me, I'm curious about that because obviously the system's broken and obviously something needs to, like, short of all of us, like all the people like learning how to actually grow a tomato in their backyard. Like the whole reason why we have like monocrop, all these like GMO products, because people are not willing to do a single thing for themselves. Like, and if we were to get rid of GMO crops, half the world would die. Like half of America would starve to death if we got rid of GMO crops like tomorrow, right? So, until we can convince everybody to like grow a tomato in their backyard, this system needs to be in place, and the system is broken. So if there's a chance to fix the system, I'm curious about that. Now, of course, and the same thing with immigration. I mean, there's the same argument that fits into that puzzle piece as well, where it's like, okay, let's say you deport a lot of people that are here illegally. Well, that's going to cause a shortage of the people that pick your crops or do the labor. And so there's going to be a rise in food prices. And so it's the same thing with this. So when we're bringing manufacturing back or we're eliminating cheap foreign production, then, okay, there's going to be a cost the cost of everything is going to go up. So it's the same argument in both cases. I've heard arguments being made. Okay, well, there's going to be a period of pain. Okay, there's going to be a depression, but it's going to self-correct eventually, hopefully, right? As the new system emerges. And I'm like, I am honestly kind of curious about that. Do we take the hit now for the next 100 generations to be able to have a chance as this thing's going off the cliff? Like, is there a way to reverse this thing? And if we can just endure like a little bit of short-term pain in order to correct it, I'm interested in that. It's like with COVID, we saw the boomers, and everybody's like, oh, like they were afraid they were going to die because of a cold. And so they're willing to shut down the economy and ruin everything for generations because of a cold, no problem. But now it's like we're on the cusp of maybe there's a chance to like do something corrective for this broken system, but no, not willing to do it even for a split second. And so I don't know. I'm curious. If like part of me was hopeful. I'm like, God, is Trump gonna like save the world? Like, not putting any faith in it. I've been talking mad shit this whole time, but like a tiny little piece of me is like, damn, is he gonna pull it off? But then he backs down, and everybody's coping and being like, oh no, it's just art of the deal. Negotiate. Don't you know? It's just art of the deal. I'm like, what the fuck? Which one is it then? Like, what are we doing here?
Art of the steal.
Yeah, exactly. So I to me, it looks like he saw the stock market, his invest, his donors and all his people are like, bro, this is not what we're talking about. And he's like, okay, fine. Pulling back, 90-day pause. And everyone's like, okay. So you don't actually know what you're doing.
Or is it possible that's a yo-yo setup? And like, if you're able to communicate the moves you're going to make in advance, it's like the revolving door, right? You're setting up your buddies. So it's like, hey guys, we're going to do this announcement on Tuesday, buy low on Thursday or Wednesday. Then I'll make this announcement on Friday. And then by Monday, boom, you're in business. It's just like Rothschild buying up all the penny stocks because he said Wellington's won the war. You know what I mean? Similar play, art of the steal. And it's always like announce that you're doing one thing, set up an expectation, then subvert that expectation, then pull off your magic trick and the prestige.
Yeah, dude, I heard there was some controversy about that, how Trump like put out on Truth Social, like now would be a good time to buy or something like that. And then it's like, and so some people on the left or whatever, critics are saying insider trading, or like trying to get him on that. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I especially see that with sort of the trend with the crypto market, where there's all this institutional investment and people like Howard Lutnick, or he's on record as saying I have hundreds of millions of dollars in crypto, but the difference between crypto and say like stocks or money is, if the dollar crashes, we're supposed to hold the government accountable. If the stock crashes, we're supposed to hold the company accountable. And eventually, once we move over to crypto and digital currency only, every time it takes a dip, all I see is, oh, well, that's just the market. That's the roller coaster and the dips and things like that. And I think in reality, they're all sort of colluding with each other behind the scenes and saying, we're all going to dump on the retail investors because the price has gone up so high. Like, I think that's what's explaining these fluctuations with Bitcoin, is they're seeing that it's reaching a certain price point and then they're all dumping together and then waiting for more people to buy back in now that, you're supposed to buy the dips or whatever.
Sure.
And just bleeding everyone dry.
And what is Bitcoin usually measured in as a valuation?
Yeah,
US dollars. That's right. Okay. Yeah. Weird. Huh.
Buddy.
Yeah. And then you have things like Tether, which is, operating out of Hong Kong by people like Brock Pierce, who is a known Epstein client, has had like child sexual assault allegations against him. And now all of a sudden that's being brought into the fold. And as far as I can tell, Tether is just being printed out of thin air. They're not doing like a one-to-one backing, and the liquidity is really weird. And China's just cool with it.
Well, where your understanding of crypto ends and where the crypto begins, that's the magic space.
Yeah.
That's the gap where they get to go, hey, man, it's just the magic of crypto. First you're rich, then you're poor, then you're rich again, and just keep playing that game. So it's all a belief system at the end of the day, right? One solar flare and that fun gambling game comes to an end, as opposed to like my old silver pieces, which can still get me a loaf of bread, or my two hands, which can build a thing that will hopefully allow you to give me another thing. So yeah, it is funny how crypto's really, the whole purpose is to get the blockchain technology, because that's what you're going to need for the smart contracts, for the digital IDs, to get everything, because you can't run a faultless carbon tracking system, consumption tracking system to charge people for breathing air unless you have a unassailable blockchain that never makes mistakes.
Yeah, there's that video by Larry Fink where he says, you know, we want to tokenize everything, and he's like saying it with a smile. Larry Fink wants people on the blockchain, and that's what I try to get people to understand. Is they always purport it as like it's freedom money, you know, it's off the system, and it's like that's definitely not the case. And even the story behind Bitcoin and its founding and things like that, I've done some digging, and it's pushed by you know, the SHA's 256 encryptions from the NSA, and a bunch of the people included in that, like Satoshi Nakamoto story, they're all self-proclaimed transhumanists. So they're, you know, willing to go along with this agenda.
Have you guys looked up what Satoshi Nakamoto translates to directly? You guys looked this up?
My sister-in-law is Japanese, so I could ask her.
Okay, Satoshi translate. Hold on. It basically means medium inside or center, Satoshi center, right? And then Nakamoto translate
Banking
means
euphemism.
no, sorry.
banker.
Nakamoto means central origin, and Satoshi basically means like wisdom or intelligence. Central intelligence, dude.
I see.
Dude, yeah. So that's a fun
funny.
one. That's a fun one. You know?
Like, I think a lot of people, we project like that these people, these gangsters are sort of like psychopaths or sociopaths, or they're blackmailed or they're bought off or whatever, right? But you have to try and put yourself in a mindset that we ourselves will probably never be in, which is that of a central banker who is like above a doctor in terms of playing God by printing money. They're like wizards who create energy from thin air and can use that energy to compel other people to do the most ridiculous and retarded shit. And out of that God complex comes this desire to try and socially engineer and fundamentally change human behavior. And I know for a fact that these, at least in Canada, these central bankers have had these think tanks, and they invite people from their board of director friends, and they all come to the think tank and hear the presentation, and it's like all disguised in like corporate speak and bureaucratic speak and things like sustainable development. And at the end of the day, it's going to come down to they want you to brush your teeth so that you'll get 60 points, so that you can use those 60 points for your food card to get your daily slop rations made out of bugs or whatever. And it'll be like remember the times of great consumption, the fat pig times of the 20th and 21st century? Thank goodness we saved the planet by becoming skinny, emotional, vegan waifs that barely can decide for ourselves. And I don't know, that doesn't seem like a fun future, so that's why I do what I do.
Awesome.
Yeah, there's this term called TESCREAL that I learned very recently. Mark Andreessen is actually a self-proclaimed one, but it can be attributed to people like Elon Musk and things like this, where they feel like these actions are, they can hide them behind the guise of, well, this is for the betterment of all humanity, and then, you know, push the carbon tax credit and things like that.
Interesting. So like ends justify the means type of sort of philosophy, sort of.
Yeah, it's like the Club of Rome, silent weapons for quiet wars. The whole idea is that because humanity has grown tired of like violent conflicts with each other, like we generally have to be pretty brainwashed to participate these days because we're so cynical towards it. So they have to engineer new types of enemies, right? And it's like, hey, you got to fight the communists, you got to fight this group, that group. Well, what about making ourselves the enemy, right? So that, or making your enemy your neighbor, right? If your neighbor's eating beef, they might be a bad person. If your neighbor doesn't have a BLM sign, they're a bad person. So what they do is they create these purity tests to give people the opportunity to virtue signal their allegiance. And then the side effect of that is we all regress, those of us who participate, we regress into sort of tribalistic mentality, fight a bunch, and then those people at one rung above in the sort of law and order mentality will be like, something must be done about these tribalistic people. And then that's when the ruling class goes, well, here, we've got the solution we cooked up kind of a while ago, but we've been waiting to implement it. And that's the shock doctrine, right? Manufacture a crisis so you can offer the solution. And you only kind of go along with it if you don't know what's going on, right? Am I going to rush out to get a real ID or a digital ID or something that I know is going to be used to track things like this conversation and be used against me, no, I'm going to defer. I'm going to delay and like not participate in that. And everyone's got their own line, like what's enough for you, right? It comes down to where your comfort meets your integrity. And so you just got to decide for yourself what's more important.
Yeah, no doubt. Now, is Real ID, that's a thing in Canada too? Do you guys have a deadline coming up about getting that in place too? Or?
So they just implemented so that if we come into the States for longer than 30 days, we have to register now with the American government, which is a brand new thing. And with Mark Carney, if he gets voted in, he will definitely be pushing forward a national digital ID for Canada. There's already a bunch of people set up in the works for that, tied to Bill Gates and those foundations. And I honestly fear that even if the conservative government come in, they might hum and haw, but once Trump starts pushing the unification agenda and things have gotten bad, like people have suffered the pain for a year and a half, 2 years, whatever, they'll have more open arms to this unification because they'll say, hey, we're going to move to this new currency. It's going to be on blockchain. But guess what? Those of you who've really suffered get a UBI because we're printing it all out of thin air, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. So we've got this big deadline coming up in the United States where you're going to be required to have a real ID in order to fly on an airplane. And that's coming up here in about a month. That's going to come down and be law, I guess. But, you know, you can use a passport. There's other ways around it too. So you don't have to do it. But, you know, so that's our way of non-compliance. But, you know, it's funny in America, people are just like, they're not willing to really do anything or say anything until like it's too late. So I bet you the day that it comes out, there's going to be a lot of TikTok videos of people getting denied their airlines. And then it's going to become an issue. And it's like, well, we've been talking about this for like 10 years, you guys. So welcome to the party. Thank you for joining us. GrandTheftWorld.com if you want to learn more.
It's actually funny. My girlfriend's going to be flying like the day after that takes effect. So I was like, look, you're not getting that real ID. You're going to get a passport or renew your passport. And I even looked on like 5 different states where you can go like book an appointment. And all the times for a lot of the DMVs in different counties and stuff don't even have appointments available. So it's like
for passports or for real IDs? For
the real ID. So so even the people that are, you know, trying to get one last minute or something like that, it's not only gonna stop you from getting on your flight, but you might as well just get a passport so you can leave the country anyway.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Why would you waste your time or money on a real ID when you just get a passport? I'm just gonna use straight up passport for everything from here on out. Except if you're buying a gun, you still have to have something with your home address on it. So we'll see how that goes down. There are ways around that too, though, folks. Yep. Or just buy guns like from your friends.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it. Or print them
in America. In Canada, it's illegal for us to do that, unfortunately.
Really? Well,
but in America, you go nuts, man.
Yeah, get yourself a nice 3D printer and then secret safe with you. Go on a nice little boating trip.
Twice a year, I teach a course called Autonomy. It's a 12-week course. It teaches leadership, entrepreneur skills, executive skills, all these types of things that I saw were taken out of our education system in order to make the schooling or indoctrination system that we've all probably went through. And it has served us well enough to be interchangeable cogs in the machine of the globalists. But if we want a homestead, if we want write our own ticket, work from home job, work from anywhere type of situation, they're not exactly handing those out at the end of college. They give you a piece of paper and they're like, good luck. So reality is dropping us off here, but the demands of reality are up here. So I created Autonomy to help people close that gap for themselves so they can level up their skills to the demands of the situations that life is putting in front of us presently. Life's demands of intellect and understanding precision and complexity are ever increasing. The schooling didn't prepare us for it. The media is not going to do anything but reinforce what schooling prepared us for. And so we're going to have to take a leadership position and take steps off the beaten path to kind of blaze our own trail in life. What makes the Grand Theft World podcast unique, invigorating, exciting, and informative? Most other podcasts out there are either doing straight up interviews or they're just covering the daily news. They're covering current events from the day they happened. And that is effective. It's useful. It's a great starting point. And then sometimes these current events change during the week past the first story. So we like to give it a little time. You have to wait till some of the dust settles on these stories in order to give them accurate coverage. And the other thing that's really missing in the media landscape is covering the articles that are coming out every day. That's great. That's necessary. But who's bringing in contextual history so that you can understand what has been going on for decades and decades to lead up to the machinations and actions that we see unfolding today? So what we do here on the podcast is we cover current events. Many of these things are censored, but we wait about a week. As a forensic historian, I focused mainly through my career on the history of globalism and collectivism and things that they call maybe the New World Order. There's a lot of facts to these sort of circumstances, groups, events, activities, working groups that they've had over time. So for Grand Theft World listeners, we not only break down the current events, most of which that are censored during the week, we provide you with contextual history, we give you the source notes, the references, we do deep dives, and this really empowers you with an understanding of context and history so that you can make more informed decisions in your life. There's also a community, a membership where you guys can actually ask questions and we can get into the show and we can share evidence. And there's a town hall weekly for Grand Theft World for those who listen to it and are interested in covering the stories that we don't get to during a 6-hour show. Listening to it an hour a day, you could easily consume the week's news, but you're going to have substance and meaning and context and understanding. And with that, you can make higher quality decisions in your life. So if you're interested in more quality in your life, go to grandtheftworld.com, click podcast at the top, and we'll see you there. Thank you.
These allegations are false.
This isn't Grand Theft Auto, folks. This isn't a video game.
What are the most surprising things that you discovered once you started pulling on that thread? Who he was connected to, what institutions he was influential over, what events he participated in?
Come on, man. What are we talking about? Come on, man. No.
You don't have to think about it, dude.
I got this quote because you said you didn't know much about Klaus Schwab. I made it my job to, as soon as this happened, I'm like, okay, this guy's their front man. Let me learn about the official history of the World Economic Forum. I got their 40-year history. I got every book that Klaus Schwab has written or ghostwritten. I went through those books. This is one of the most interesting passages.
Come on, man. Come on.